My dearest brothers and sisters. This is Hakann speaking. I am honored and pleased to answer some more questions today.
Question: what is the chance that a being or soul will experience something to which they did not make a prior agreement on? I asked this with many things in mind, in particular children going through a tough time right now. It is very difficult for me to believe and accept that all those souls simply agreed to have that experience.
Answer: yes, you are correct that in some cases people agreed to have certain difficult experiences, but about 50% of the time they did not. In particular, about 80% of children who are suffering right now did not agree to the things that are happening now. The suffering of you and especially your children is upsetting to me and to lots of other galactics. It is one of the reasons why we are working hard to help liberate your world, although ultimately we're in a supportive role and most of the direct on the ground work is the responsibility of Earthlings. You have a good heart. Hang in there, things will get better in the medium term.
Question: let us say there is a soul who transitioned from Earth into the higher dimensions, and they want to manifest a body and return to Earth in full-grown form, to support their family or whatever the reason may be. Are there laws which would prevent them from doing this? Would they need to seek permission from the spiritual hierarchy or some type of a council? Or can they just go ahead and return, manifesting a full adult body and enter the world again?
Answer: this is a great question. If an average Earthling transitions, they do not have the ability to manifest a fully grown body on Earth. Theoretically, a more evolved being could help them to manifest a fully grown body, but that more evolved being would need to have a very good reason for that. In practice, this rarely happens. Now let's suppose that an evolved Earthling transitions, who has given his life over to Source and who has gently let go of his inner barriers and blocks. For example, a being such as the one who you call Jesus. In this case, this being is able to manifest a fully grown body without asking permission from anyone. However, this being will very likely only do that either after asking Source and getting approval, or if this is needed to fulfill a mission given to him by Source. While the following principle is not always true, it's often the case that people only develop certain potentially destabilizing abilities after they have gained the wisdom to use these properly. For example, many abilities only unlock after attaining inner peace and genuinely and consciously surrendering your life to Source. Evolved beings who have surrendered themselves to Source don't write laws for other evolved beings who have surrendered themselves to Source. Their main goal is serving Source, and such beings can communicate with Source whenever they wish, so why would laws be necessary? For those rare cases that such evolved beings are caught in an ego trap, there are beings who keep watch and who could theoretically block someone from manifesting a full-grown body on Earth. For example, Archangel Michael has blocked a good-hearted but misguided being from manifesting a body once. However, in practice this is rarely necessary. We Pleiadians do write a very few rules for less evolved beings, such as don't directly harm other people. There's a few exceptions to that, like self-defense. However, we too do not see a need to write laws for those beings who have genuinely surrendered themselves to Source and cleared their distortions. For example, I respect other people's free will. I do not do this because this is a written down law. I do this because it is the will of Source that I do so. If today I somehow started murdering other people for no reason, then my Pleiadian brothers and sisters would first restrain me so that I could not murder more people. After that, it would not be a case of, Hakann murdered people, so he broke the law, so we will look in our law books how much we should punish him. Instead, my brothers and sisters would ask Source, what should we do with Hakann? I think that right now it is hard for Earthlings to imagine how pleasant and how efficient a society is in which most beings have genuinely committed themselves to serving Source, and as such, no laws are necessary for them. Also, everything that needs to be done gets accomplished harmoniously, without some central institution forcing people to do certain tasks. You will be able to see for yourself how pleasantly such a society flows when we make open contact. And it is likely that one day Earthlings will build such a society too. This is yet another reason why we think that the highest priority for Earthing should be the raising of their level of consciousness. Love is tied strongly to that. Love is the fertile soil in which consciousness can bloom. Thank you for your question.
Question: my now since passed father-in-law had complications with cancer drug and other medication which led him to needing to be revived, but my mother-in-law and taken to the hospital. Long hours passed unconscious and the sad decision was made to disconnect his ventilator and life support. He was not my father-in-law at the time yet and we had only had few but deep physiological conversations. Turns out he decided he was not ready to move on and he awoke. Very confused and coming in and out of consciousness almost on repeat. Same reaction on waking 3x at least. My question is on his reaction towards me. His confusion of being in a hospital over and over made sense. His reaction to seeing my face was a reaction of surprise I was there and deep recognition. By the third time I was hiding behind my now husband as I felt I shouldn't be there at such, what felt like, a sacred time for their family. Was this reaction just simply wow I didn't think you two would be together, or was it him knowing me on the other side and seeing and recognizing me from another time and place? The knowing felt deeper than option A because he seemed to focus on me for too long when all 6 of his children and wife were all there. I know the moment wasn't about me and the main reason I wanted to hide so next time he came to he wouldn't see me. Thank you for any clarity you can bring if you can. I would love to know more as to why he moved on also. He was the sanity needed for his family. Perhaps it was time they stopped parroting his ideas and stood on their own.
Answer: thank you for your question. You and your father-in-law are in our thoughts. I would like to encourage you to follow your intuition. If you feel that he recognized you from some other time and place, then that can be your truth or your perspective. There is no reason to be ashamed of having a non-conventional truth when compared to the rest of society. Indeed, this is something that requires courage and hence is brave. Whether you share your truth with others is your decision, but it is good to be loyal to yourself, which includes being loyal to what you believe. What you choose to believe is of course up to you, but you are very sharp and perceptive already. From my point of view, all you need is just a tiny bit more confidence that your feelings and intuitions are valid and can indeed be relied upon. For indeed, they are. It is entirely possible that he recognized you from another time and place. The channeler is consciously aware of 3 people whom he met in his life that he knew from another time and place, and he met a few more such people without realizing it. So yes, that happens. And when people have just woken up, their rationality tends to throw up fewer blocks to their inner knowingness. You have my compliments and respect for being conscious and courageous enough that you are already at the stage where you are considering whether your inner knowing is valid. This is better than what most earthlings do, which is just bulldozing their inner knowingness with their rational mind. Earthlings are actually incredibly psychically powerful, they just tend to bulldoze all their inner knowingness via their rational mind. So it's great that you're not doing that. I can understand that him moving on was very difficult for his family. He moved on because doing so benefited his own soul's evolution more than staying. This is by far the most common reason why people transition. The second most common reason is far less usual, and it is that the person came to Earth to do a certain job, and that job has either been fulfilled or is no longer relevant or important. It's actually quite rare that people transition without their soul wanting them to transition. Earthlings often prioritize comfort and stability and ease and happiness. I don't blame Earthlings for that. I too might be prioritizing those things if I did not live in a post-scarcity society. That said, your souls often prioritize soul growth. So yes indeed, from the perspective of the soul of your father-in-law, it's not bad for him to transition, as that provides an opportunity for his family to learn to stand on their own legs. Will that be comfortable for them? Perhaps not. Will that provide soul growth for them? Yes, it will. That said, I understand that this can be difficult for his family. You have my sympathy.
Question: over the last couple of years, though, my awakening accelerated, and at one point late 2020, through an unfortunate mixing of 2 pharmaceuticals that should never be mixed, my brain broke. I began taking actions I never would take normally, including harming myself, and I nearly starved to death before my sweet husband and I realized it was a drug interaction, nothing more, that was haunting me. But at the time, I spent every single day and night terrified, and only over the last few months have I sort of fixed myself and gotten back on track. My amazing husband is my soulmate and he saw me through. That being said, even though I feel back to normal, I am still plagued by negative thoughts that pop into my head from time to time. It's as though my conscious brain and unconscious brain talk to each other, and definitely disagree with each other. My conscious brain understands the ascension process, and I have omitted many things from my regular diet, including most caffeine, beef and pork, and I watch my sugar, which helps. Here is my question: am I experiencing both timelines in my own head, the timeline where we fail and the timeline when we succeed? And how would you recommend I negate the negative thoughts in my head so that they disappear? It's been pretty exhausting to live like this, as though my brain power is taxed every day. I have worked through all my life karma and made peace with my past misgivings, but I would like the negative subconscious voice to go away for good, so I am wondering what you would recommend beyond meditation, prayer, exercise and diet, as I have been doing? I have negated it 95% of the way, but I would really love some guidance on how to heal myself completely. Thank you very much. Hopefully you have some answers that might be able to help me.
Answer: you have my sympathy for your experiences. That sounds very tough and scary, especially in a society that does not really have the tools and information to fully support you. Without pharmaceutical drugs, people's soul will make sure that they spiritually develop at an appropriate pace. This is often a slower pace than many spiritual people would like, because a lot of time is needed to actually integrate certain insights and experiences. Typically, it is only after integrating certain insights and experiences that it is appropriate to go a level deeper. In your case, the interaction of these pharmaceutical drugs tore down certain walls and blinders that protect normal people. Once you stabilize your life, you will actually realize that you have certain abilities and certain ways of perception that normal people do not have, because these walls and blinders have come down. However, they have come down more quickly than your soul would typically like, which is why you have had these very tough experiences. The good news is that nothing has fundamentally broken in your brain. You've just been unblocked a bit earlier than your system was ready for. It's entirely possible that a number of years from now, you will be a fully functioning person with very special abilities who is able to help quite a few other people. The bad news is that you don't have the normal walls in place anymore that would allow normal people to function in society while having unresolved trauma and limiting beliefs. So you indeed will have to prioritize your own psychological well-being in the coming months and quite possibly years. Tunia's message, How to Heal, contains a lot of useful information. For you specifically, I would recommend spending time in nature. Wearing a conventional shoe will block some of the grounding effect you get from being in nature, so ideally go barefoot or wear a minimalist shoe. Alternatively, you can sit down or lay down in nature. Regular clothing won't block the grounding effect you get from the soil. Gardening is another option to benefit from the earth's grounding effect. You would also benefit from eating some rosemary, ideally fresh. It is beneficial to view your mind and body as trying to heal and trying to help you. So whenever a challenging or painful thought comes up, this is not your mind being needlessly cruel. This is your mind giving you an opportunity to heal. You do this simply by consciously perceiving the thought that comes up, without judging it or repressing it or trying to change it. That, by itself, will provide healing. Although you might have to do this several times to heal certain particularly challenging thoughts. So I don't suggest trying to negate negative thoughts. I suggest accepting that you have them and just perceiving them consciously, without trying to change them or judge them or repress them. Yes, this can be challenging, but until you do this, these thoughts can keep coming back. Painful thoughts are just a part of life. I somewhat recently lost someone dear to me, and yes, that caused me emotional pain. It also brought up some so-called negative thoughts in me. Namely, I'm a military commander and he died in battle. Could I have prevented his death? Did I screw up? Am I even cut out to be a commander? Painful thoughts and emotions are always going to be with you so long as you are in a physical form, and your choices are to either accept that or to suffer needlessly. In fact, some of the so-called negative thoughts you experience aren't even your own. Some of them you pick up from the human collective. This is yet another reason why you're never going to be completely free from so-called negative thoughts and emotinos. Even just thinking, I accept that I currently have this so-called negative emotion can help. Or if that sentence doesn't feel genuine, you can think, I accept, that I struggle to accept, that I have this so-called negative emotion. Similarly, if your body wants to move, it is good to do that. Even if your body feels like just shaking, it is good to let your body move as it wants to. It knows what it needs to heal. I would suggest only trying to actively use your abilities to perceive certain things or to help other people once you are a bit more healed, and after your system has had some more time to rest and stabilize. Yes, some of the things you are perceiving are real and have value, but some of it is just ego fears or timelines that will not come to pass. Before having healed fully, it's hard to distinguish one from the other. The timeline where humanity fails has been deactivated. This timeline is still possible to perceive, but it simply will not manifest. The worst case scenario is that it will take a long and painful time for humanity to be free, and that the circumstances will be less happy than you and we had hoped, but humanity will be free. It could not be otherwise, because Source has decreed this. There is actually no other force in the universe than Source's love light. For example, demons don't actually have their own kind of power or force, all they have is that they parasite off the love light energy of souled beings. The most powerful demon in existence is no more than a parasite, while Source is the source of all energy and power in existence. So it is no contest. If Source decrees something, it will happen, and Source has decreed that Earthlings will be free. So they will. Not everything that you perceive will come to pass. You have my respect for what you're already accomplished, the healing you've already done, the work you've already put in to get well, and the diet improvements you've already made. I also would like to thank your husband for supporting you. I think that your healing and stabilization process might take a bit longer than you're currently expecting, but it is very likely that you will get to a good place in your life. I also think that you have the potential to become even more of a light bearer than you already are. You really do have some unique gifts. Thank you for sending in questions. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you in this way. And thank you for being the lights in the darkness. We will not forget what you are doing. In the future, many books and movies and similar will be made about this time period on Earth, and you lightworkers are playing the role of the cavalry that saves the day. Already some galactics are using Earthling lightworkers in their teaching materials for their children, as examples that yes, people can be lights in the darkness, even when most others are not. Yes, people can treat others better than they are treated themselves. And yes, people can live off their inner knowingness, even when everyone else thinks they're crazy. Thank you for being exactly what society needs. And thank you for everything that you're doing to help out humanity. Your star brother, Hakann.